Am I overreacting, or are my players just wannabe hardcore? So, I recently got into D&D again after a horrible experience a few years ago, this time as a DM. I'm playing with 5 of my closest friends and we play twice a week, but I start to regret everything honestly. Apologies for mistakes, but English is not my first language. So, in my campaign, they are the chosen ones, and are fighting a few demons. Monsters, all for glory and fame, but they are kind of exaggerating it. Last session, I put them in dangerous terrain. They've never experienced a sandstorm before, since the world is pretty Middle European based. I was hoping for them to react to it. But instead they went sleeping, not even showing some kind of fear or concern for the spectacle, like, I have never experienced a sandstorm either. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't stop staring at it and being anxious when I asked if they don't want to look into it closer. They said, dude, we are adventurers, we fear nothing. Okay, cool. The session before, I had an evil mage manipulating them and showing them an alternative reality where everyone they loved was dead or tortured. Again, nothing. They just went on, unfazed. And again the explanation, I'm an adventurer, I'm confident and strong, nothing can scare me. Not even you seeing your mother getting ripped apart by a zombie elf? Okay, cool. Another time, I said they couldn't get a long rest, since the environment was harsh. If they fell asleep, the fire would have gone out, and they were all frozen to death. They wanted a long rest anyways. Because we are strong and powerful, we can handle it, followed by being mad at me when I did not kill them. But gave to levels of exhaustion due to freezing weather and their bodies not getting enough rest because they needed to fight the cold. Maybe that was unfair from my side, but I just wanted a reaction. I wanted a hint of fear, concern, something that wasn't we are though bitches and nothing can kill us. I would have been happy with anything, but no. Not even a hint of exhaustion during roleplay. Okay, this is starting to get uncool. My question now is, am I just exaggerating, or are they too far gone in their power fantasy? I get that they want to be the heroes. But I think me making them the chosen ones who are the only people who can destroy the evil is really enough for level 8. I'm honestly starting to lose interest. Edit. Okay, I got it. I made mistakes. I shouldn't have given them an option to kill someone in session 0. It's okay. I understand that I might have another idea of D&D. I'll talk to my players and educate myself on the matter. Thank you. I'm kicking a player out of my group for the first time, and it doesn't feel good at all. We've all 3 PCs and myself been playing together for a little over a year. We went in person once everyone felt comfortable doing so. We started playing Curse of Strahd at that point. I'll also mention that we had all wanted to add at least 1, if not 2 more players, but we hadn't found anyone yet. Once we started that up, one player the bard started missing sessions. It started with 2 in a row. I would message after every session to make sure they were okay. I had finally gotten the response that they split up with their partner and needed time to get life straightened out. That's totally fine. I get it. They came back a week later and all was right with the world. Then it happened again. They missed 4 weeks in a row. Again, I messaged after every session to check in. It turns out they got a job in the evenings that conflicted with game time. Again, I get it. Life happens. Just tell me what's going on. So we changed to a day when they were available. I had no problem with it and neither did the other players. All was again right with the world. 3 weeks ago I was inundated with people that wanted to join the group all of a sudden. Not wanting to throw 2 new players right into COS, I devised a quick dungeon with a dragon, because why not, so they could get the gist of the game. I told everyone to roll characters and got no response from the bard. They didn't show, and also didn't show last week. I'm done with the absences and it's not fair to the others who are there. The new players have quite a drive ahead of them, and I don't want them to get there and not be able to play because someone didn't show without any kind of notice. So I'm kicking the bard out today. It's going to suck, but no one in the group has heard anything directly. All in all, not the worst horror story, but it has definitely caused me some grief. DM made a game for 1 player. IF had only been playing 4th for a few months back in 2011 with my roommates and my husband and boyfriend. One of my roommates had been a DM before and asked if we wanted to start a second game to play every other week to give our current DM a break and get to play. We all agreed excitedly and wrote up characters. I played a Scion, my husband a Warden, my roommate a Druid, our other roommate a Ranger. And our DM decided to play 3 NPCs, a Fighter, a Wizard, and a Cleric. We figured our party was a little small, so 3 NPCs would be helpful. Except we never got to do anything. The Druid got to do everything. The story centered around her entirely, which was mostly alright as she had the most important backstory, and it could cause the biggest conflict, which we all thought would be fun. Again, this wasn't a problem and brought us together as a group rather quickly as we all wanted to protect her from the BBEG. We were traveling around trying to find a way to defeat the BBEG as he was a super powerful necromancer. We kept coming across things that required our skill checks for, like locked doors, heavy boulders hiding a secret passage, a language scrawled on the walls, etc. We kept offering to move things, decode things, or even a simple perception check, but our DM would say, "Don't worry, NPC has it. Oh, NPC is already deciphering the language." All except for the Druid. If she wanted to do something, the DM would let her. It got to the point that we were all just playing around on our phones, or stacking dice, or drawing. We complained a little about not getting to do anything, and she'd just throw us into super hard combat whenever we did. So we stopped complaining for fear that she'd kill off our characters, and anytime we'd go into a new place to investigate, she'd ask what our characters would do, and my response would always be, "I hold the torch." We still had fun doing a few other things in the campaign, and she was our roommate, so we didn't want to quit the game, but it really made it not fun when all the excitement we ever got was combat. Player needs to be center of attention, but can't talk to anyone. They're a player in our group that loves to roleplay, but only if it involves her. No one else seems to be able to have their own moments. Anytime we meet new NPCs or get near a town, she feels the need to be the first to interact with them, but never does it well. She also doesn't care about anyone else. If it's not about her, she'll play with her pets, or play with minis like dolls, or be on her phone. She never pays attention during combat. See, she made an animal. As in, she made a character who doesn't talk, can't read or write, and doesn't understand how to interact with people or civilization. Another of our group's characters has to babysit her constantly, so she doesn't do anything too horrible. She hoards magic items because shiny. Anytime we get close to a town, she decides to transform into some predatory animal and run through it to cause as much panic as possible. Or in meeting an NPC, she'll throw rocks at them. In a dozen sessions, I haven't wanted to interact with her once. The only person in our party who interacts with her is the person who has to babysit her. No one else really cares about her. And she doesn't belong in our party. Even in her own character, she doesn't actually have a justification for staying with us beyond just following us around. She doesn't know anything about any of the other characters in the party, and she doesn't bother to pay any attention to us. And the sad thing is, she's safe from any danger because the DM is her boyfriend, so he gives her plot armor. No matter how bad she acts, there's never consequences. She should be in jail by now, but everyone just seems to ignore her antics, because if she doesn't get her way, she becomes really whinny and cold towards everyone else. And it's not like we can drop her or the game, because several of us live together, and that would spark a tantrum to end all tantrums. It's gotten so bad that I've plotted her death dozens of times. No enemy will attack her, and no NPC will get rid of her. So one of us would have to do it. But God, would that release a demon? I'm sorry, this turned more into venting than I intended. Just a symptom of a bad player and bad DM holding the rest of us hostage with no easy way out. I'll try to rest now, and I'll try to answer any questions, if people have them. DM kills PC in his introduction, and blames it on the player. This is not my story, it happened to an acquaintance. English is not my first language, so I apologize in advance. In this system, CR is made in a way that CR1 is a challenge for a group of 4 LVL1 PCs, or for one LVL4 character. As an example, our LVL9 giant spider has CR2. Encounters are harder, but fewer and reward far more XP. Table began with the group having a minor solo scene for each, as they got to the city, to meet for the first time. Fighter. A city guard had a sparring session outside the city with a fellow guard, Rogran, and hid after robbing a corrupt merchant. Then came Cleric of the God of War, my acquaintance. They are all LVL4. Cleric was camping for the night. Once morning comes, he would only a few hours of travel to get to the city. DM then tells him to roll perception, which he does, and notices there are 2 wolves reaching him, as he apparently camped near a wolf's den. Camping there was preset by DM, no input from Cleric. Roll initiative, combat starts, things are not going great. The wolves combined have CR1, which means it is a challenging fight for a LVL4 PC. They are both LVL2. Second turn begins with a cave wolf CR2, LVL8, the pack's leader, arriving. This is now a challenging and even unfair fight for the whole group. To a single PC it is a death sentence. In 2 turns he is dead, as he had no chance against an encounter this hard. So Cleric is dead in his introduction. DM just says, I thought your Cleric was smart and strong, but he camped near a wolf's den and lost in a fight with a CR lower than his level. That was pathetic. Again, LVL4 PC against 2 LVL2 wolves and 1 LVL8 cave wolf. Cleric said he did not want to play anymore. Left the call and decided to take a break from TTRPGs. DM bullies PC who had to leave at the agreed end time by killing their character. Second session of the campaign, we hit the agreed upon end time. DM wants to keep going, but one of the PCs needs to leave. I'm the most experienced player / and typical DM, so she asks me to run her character. As she's leaving, the DM starts joking that he's going to kill her character as soon as she leaves. 10 minutes later we get in a fight on a mountain path. She's an archer, so I put her in a defensible position that's behind the front line that's also away from the slope. I declare a readied action to fire her arrow at anything that approaches the group. DM decides that the enemy can leap over the frontline fighters, attack her without provoking our opportunity attacks, or letting her use the readied action. On a hit, he declares she flies through the air several spaces and falls off the cliff and dies. DM ends the episode noting that it's not his fault because he's just running by the book and it was a bad die roll. I just go home. I love this sub, but I've played with the same PPL for 30 years, so I've no horror stories. Or so I thought. I've just remembered an acquaintance of mine begs me to run some mutants and masterminds for them. I asked the players who their favorite superheroes were, whipped up a session, and I was ready to go. Players are expressway versions of Thor, the Doctor, and the Invisible Women. Skipping to the good part. Me, the speech is caught short by a large explosion and a shout of powers out. Humans first. Rings out. People are screaming, the crowd begins to panic. What do? Thor, I fly up and try to shout to the crowd to stay calm, while also scanning for the person who may have been the bomber. The Invisible Woman, I use force fields to protect Icon from falling debris. The Doctor, IDK. I just go home. Me, oh, you're going home to research the bomber? Or the Doctor, nope, just gonna go home. Me, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what to do with that. The Doctor, shrug. Me, do you not want to play? The Doctor, not really. And that was it. Game lasted 4 minutes. Still not sure what the hell that was. A pain many of you will feel. I've been aiming for a Pathfinder group for about 4 years now. Since solidly before the lockdowns. Frequency has varied, but usually every week or every other week. We started at level 4 and are currently level 16. We have grown from trudging across the rural countryside in a wagon to scouring the depths of literal hell with that same wagon. It's been places, man. We have built up stories, plots, characters. We have numerous running gags. A player that had to step away has returned for the final stretch. I have plans for the conclusion of many plot lines, literally about to happen. I have a big thing ready to go involving a gag from the entire campaign long and a false Hydra. They are literally on the verge of bargaining with Asmodeus and killing a god. Over the past year, scheduling conflicts have increased. Players have started ghosting on sessions and apologizing after for oversleeping or something. Quite a bit of talk, but session after session gets called off. I'll claim next session happens even with only one of you. Then the one who does show never signs on because no one else says they are ready. It feels like some have lost interest and others have lost availability and all have lost accountability. We haven't played in months. I've actually given up at this point. I've stopped asking. It pains me. We were this close. I could wrap this whole campaign up in 34 sessions. And I've told them this. Then, nothing. I know it's not as dramatic as a lot of the stories on here. But in my eyes it's a very real and very relatable horror. Guess I just needed to vent.